your training for MMA is the most important biohack for MMA. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Who would have thought stating the obvious actually needs to be stated, right? But if you really think about it, why is that the case, right? Because that is what the sport is, right? You can do a lot of things right, like sleeping right, eating right, all this other stuff. But if you're not training, unfortunately, the guy who doesn't do that stuff, but all he does is train, will probably beat you. So it's important that we're actually in the gym and training, right? It's not enough. And even at home, if you have a punching bag or whatever, or grappling dummy, right, we're still training at home, right? And like other stuff as well that I'm going to be discussing in this video. But it's not, you know what I mean? I don't want you guys to go just down that pursuit of, oh yeah, I'm going to fix my sleep and all this other stuff, which is important, right? Because then you'll beat the guy who's only training and not doing the other stuff. But it is very, very vital that you also train, right? And you train really, really, really hard and really smart, right? So now you may be asking, what's really the most optimal way to train? Right? When it comes to specifically like MMA, the most optimal way to train is multiple times a day. Yeah, that's pretty much the most optimal way to train. And specifically, there's two types of training. There's two types of training that I'm going to be discussing, right? Because in these types of training, I want to keep you want to really keep in mind anytime you train, right? So there's soft training and there's hard training. So what is soft training? What is hard training, right? Soft training really is it's basically something that you could literally do for the whole day without getting super tired. And this is assuming you're in shape. If you're like 300 pounds, obviously it wouldn't apply to you, right? I don't know why. I mean, you should probably fix that before you do the split. If that's the case. But, and hard training is like something that can only be really done maybe like a few times a day or maybe even once a day, depending upon the intensity, right? You can't really do it a whole lot, right? You couldn't do it forever, basically. Right? You couldn't do it for the whole day. You could only do it like, just a couple of times maybe, or even once, depending on the intensity. So, and what really falls under the soft training? So soft training, it consists of things like film study, right? Like you watching film, that's soft training, right? So you watching like a video of a breakdown of a fight or whatever, or a breakdown of a fighter, that is soft training. Another thing is high repetition drill, right? So like you practicing like not like super intensely, just like, but you really getting down the form of, let's say, jab, right? After a punch over the mic, cross, hook, right? Really getting down the form, right? Or a kick, or whatever it is, whatever technique it is that you're really getting down that form, right? You're really getting down the form, right? You're not necessarily doing it for intensity, but it's just to really practice that form, to really get down the combo, or whatever it is, right? And of course, this is obviously tying down with exploring it and experimenting with techniques. So, like, let's say you see a fighter or you see a video of some kind of cool technique, right? Whatever it is, right? Right. So you explore and you test out the technique. So, like, you could do this on the bag, you could do this shadow boxing, right? Or you could do this if it's a grappling technique. You would obviously test it out on someone else, right? Or you test it out on a grappling dummy if you have one, right? And you really want to be constantly in the state. You don't want to be that rudimentary person that's just like, oh, that's like too fancy. That would never work. No, no. This you have to know of it because you will probably get caught by it. How many times in the gym that I can tell you, someone will say that shit doesn't work, and they get caught by that shit. Oh, that would never work, and they get caught by that, right? And it's just like, no, there's this, I believe that there was a video of Conor McGregor actually saying this. There's a video of him It's like, oh, you should never say, oh, that'll never work. No, no, try it out and see if it will work, right? Maybe it's not like the most like vital thing that you'll use in a fight, but still, you should know of it. Right? Maybe it will. Maybe it will work in a dire situation. Right? You never know. And there's also soft pad work. Right? So pad work, what's actually kind of interesting about pad work, believe it or not, before the 1970s, no one really did pad work. Right? So Muhammad Ali never really did pad work, believe it or not. Yeah, Muhammad Ali actually never, and a lot of these old school boxers, they never really did pad work. So the reason I mention this is because, I don't want you to become like, oh, I have to do pad work. Not necessarily, but it does help. I do think it's actually still, you know, it's really good for skill development, especially if you're doing a soft training style. This is not, this is not based on intensity. It's just based on technique and getting really good at the flow of the technique or of the combo or whatever it is. Soft pad work that is specifically focused on skill development is amazing, right? Right. That's absolutely amazing, especially if you have a competent person that's holding the pads. Amazing, right? And then bag work on the punching bag, right? That's also right. That counts as soft training, right? Now, obviously, this is assuming you're not doing like an intensity. Like again, I want to make a difference. There's a difference between intensity, right? Obviously, with soft training, you're not focusing on intensity. You're focusing on skill development and really getting down the form, right? And really, really understanding it like through your body, basically. Muscle memory, understanding the technique, right? So bag work on the punch bag this is actually what I was referencing. This is what most of the old school boxers would do. Most of the old school fighters, this is what the focus was on. Bag work on the punching bag, right? Also shadowbox. Shadowboxing. There's actually, I believe, there's a famous Muay Thai fighter. I'm trying to remember the name. I believe it was some art. I believe he's actually the guy that beat the guy who beat Floyd Mayweather in the Olympic boxings. He's the guy that beat him, right? So he was actually so good at Muay Thai he had to go to boxing, right? And believe it or not, you want to know what this guy basically mostly did? Just shadow boxing, just shadow boxing. No bad work, no bad work. He didn't really even train at the gym per se. Like all he would do is really just shadow boxing, right? That's literally it. Shadowboxing is actually really good because you also get used to. Now, obviously, I know I said don't do it intensity, right, for soft training, but I'm just using this as a reference for right. Like when he would like specifically try and miss, because when you're shadowboxing, your attacks go fully through and you miss, so you kind of get used to that. You're not like because sometimes you'll be out of place, and it's very hard for you to get back in place because you're not used to it. A lot of people don't train this way, right? They hit the bag and they come back, right? Right, right. Let's say I throw a kick, right? Right. Let's say I throw a kick, right? And then I come back, right? Because the bag forces me to come back, right? The impact from the bag, right, forces me to come back. But if that bag is not there and I'm just shadowbox, like I'm not really gonna be coming back, right? Like my leg is just gonna keep going through, and you get used to that, right? You either switch stances or you follow through completely back into your stance, right? So yeah, point is though shadowboxing is also actually well, right? Especially if you do it like as if you're fighting someone, where you visualize an opponent in front of you. It's a really good way to get better. And stretching, stretching, and I mentioned this in my previous video as well. Um, it's specifically mobility drill or mobility routine, but specifically doing it with a weight, like or you're doing it like if you're not good enough to do with the weight, then you do with just calisthenics, basically no weight, right? The stretching and yeah, stretching, combining it with these like weighted exercises. So let's say this is your leg, right? You raise up your leg and you just do this, right? Or you do certain movements that really forces that hip flexor because a lot of people they don't have strong enough hip flexors, right? But if you get stronger hip flexors, your kicking game will get a lot better, right? And this is just like with any exercise in general, stretching and like mobility lifting will actually be really good for you, right? And you don't have to go crazy with it, right? Right. But honestly, anything, even slow sparring, I would consider that. So like, not super high intense sparring, right? Actually, I would actually consider. Actually, never mind. Actually, yeah, uh, that's more hard training. But or anything really. Well, I'll put it like this: anything that's not really focused upon high intensity slash conditioning style training, that would be pretty much soft training. So even Dutch style drills would kind of be soft training, actually. Yeah, and for lifting, I consider active recovery as soft training. Active recovery is like really good, right? And I've gone over this in my program a lot better. If you really want to check that out, right? Active recovery you can actually pretty much do every day if you wanted to, or you just do it on the days that you're rested. Your rest days, right? Now we're gonna be going on to hard training. What is hard training compared to soft training? So hard training consists of training. Most of it is really in the gym, right? This is hard training, right? And it's usually done with training partners, right? So this is going to be a hard pad work, and the difference between that and soft pad work is that this is going to be focused more upon intensity and conditioning, and to really like you basically have mastered whatever technique, and you're just throwing it without thinking too much, and right? That's what it is. Light sparring, right? I would actually consider this a form of hard training, especially if you're doing a good amount of rounds. Yeah, this is pretty much hard training, right? And you're actually training with people that are like really challenging you and testing you. Yeah. Another thing is heavy lifting slash like an intense exercise. Like if you go to the gym, I actually consider that form of hard training. And yeah, anyone that says that isn't the case isn't working out hard enough, right? Like especially if you're doing a hypertrophy or even strength training. Yeah, like that pretty much counts as a hard training, right? Heavy lifting, intense exercise, right? And anything that really pushes you in terms of intensity and conditioning, that's pretty much hard training, right? Well, like, and specifically for lifting, I consider a hard training session as hard training. Unless it's active recovery, then it's soft training, right? Like I mentioned before. So so the reason I'm mentioning these two, soft training and hard training, these concepts, is so you can kind of like look through everything, right? Because again, soft training is one thing, hard training is another thing. So you have to really ask yourself, what am I doing right now? Right? Let's say next time you go to the gym, is this hard training or is this soft training? More than likely, when you're at the gym, I consider that a hard training. Soft training usually is like stuff you really do on your own, unless it's like soft padding. That I would consider that, soft training, right? And I've done like longer streams on that actually, funny enough, right? The live streams that I usually do, especially on like Saturdays and whatnot, they're usually soft training, right? Uh, after the class is done and everything, after open that and the class is done, hey, if I find someone, I'll hit pads with them basically, and that'll just be like technique development basically, right? Now, these two things, when you have this mindset, will get you a lot better, right? Right. Obviously, I probably don't even need to state this, but I think it's very important to state this, especially if you've kind of been having a falling out with the sport, right? But in order to get better, you need to be obsessed with it. Yeah, you have to be obsessed with it, right? Literally in your free time or any time that you have off, you should always be watching videos on how to get better at fighting, and you should be getting instructions, You should be drilling moves. You should be trying new approaches. You see a technique, and if you have the ability to do it right then and there, you see, oh yeah, let me test it out. Let me go to the gym. Next time I'm at the gym, I'm going to be testing out that technique. I'm going to be drilling it and see, like, okay, how does it exactly work? And I'm going to try and land it in someone. Right? Always immerse yourself in MMA and its strength. Right? Immerse yourself with it. Stay obsessed with it. Right? Like I said, if you see a new technique or setup that you've never seen done before, immediately do it right then and there. Right? If you have a setup like a punching bag, do it right then and there. If you have grappling time, do it right then and there. If you have like a training partner, do it right then and there. Right? Obviously invest in new gear, right? And always invest in your training. Always invest in your training in some way, shape, or form. Right? Don't be don't be cheap with it, basically. Now obviously if you're watching this and you're like just starting out, fair enough, like you don't have to invest right now. Like you're testing it out. You're testing out the waters. How do you like it and stuff like that. But down the road, after you've spent like a good amount of time, it's hard for me to give you an exact number, maybe 6 months to a year. Then invest in some better quality gear. I actually, funny enough, people are in such a rush. Like on their first day, they'll buy like the most expensive stuff, right? They'll buy Fairtex and all this stuff. You wanna know when I bought my expensive equipment for my training? Like if you look at my training sessions, especially with striking, you'll see my shin guards and like the guards that I have on my feet completely different, super expensive, right? You know when I got that stuff? Not too long ago. Yeah, not too long ago, right? And I've been doing this for a while. You know what I mean? So you don't have to be in a rush per se, but you know the point is you should be investing in the training in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not like literally like buying a year. I don't necessarily consider that as just an investment. That's not the only way to invest. The best way to invest is the training in and of itself. Right? Getting instructions. I've gotten those. Right? Watching the videos. Getting better at fighting. Right? I'm gonna be actually probably after this. I'm gonna be watching some instructions after this. Right? Just so I can get better at this sport. Right? Right? Oh, whoever you like to study from, it could be anyone. It could be John Danaher. It could be Craig Jones. Right? It could be. I think even Mike Tyson has an instructional. Funny enough. Right? which is actually insane. Yeah, there's Mike Tyson who has an instructional. There's Barry Robinson. Right? There's a bunch of people. There's a bunch of people that like you can all basically just invest. Always invest and like try to learn and be obsessed in the sport. And yeah, always invest. There's nothing wrong with that, right? And how if you want to get like if you truly like your coach, maybe once in a while get a private with get a private training session just so you can get better at something. And depending on what it is, if it's striking, you could just do it yourself, right? But if it's like grappling specifically, you probably low-key want to do it with another person. Because again, you need another able body to do it, right? So I would probably say if you're going to be doing grappling private, then ask someone else at the gym and split it, right? Split the money and then you post basically, right? You post basically, right? Again, depending on your budget, you do more often if you want to. If you want to invest that much into it. If not, you do it once in a while, and it's still just as beneficial. Right? Right. Another thing is this is gonna be a heated topic right here. Junk training. Junk training. But before we dive into junk training, I do want to make a clear distinction between junk training and just training you do in your free time, but isn't like the main focus. So I'll give you like an example, like jumping rope, for example. I think it's decent, but like really, you should only really focus on it for like 10 minutes, maybe. Anything more is like pretty much pointless from an MMA perspective, unless you're doing it for another reason. Now, if you're doing it for like a fitness reason, if you're doing it to get better at better calf muscles development, right? There's other reasons why you could do it, right? Heart rate and all that stuff, right? Fair enough, right? But if you think this is going to help you become a better fighter, you are sadly mistaken. So don't spend more than like 10 minutes on it. And even 10 minutes is honestly a lot, right? It's honestly a lot, right? And like I hate this mindset in MMA. It's like and like combat sports. Oh, this one guy used to jump rope, and therefore I need to jump rope. Yeah, like I hate that like mindset. It's like very rarely should you be using that. You know what I mean? It's like the equivalent, like a lot of this, a lot of times, and look, I love Muhammad Ali, right? And apparently he used to jump. I don't know how often he would jump rope, but let's just say for sake of argument, he used to jump rope a lot. Again, that was a little bit more so his fighting style, unless that's going to be your fighting style. But even then, I wouldn't say like he became a good boxer just from jumping rope, right? That's like the equivalent of me saying, "Oh, Muhammad Ali used to wear red gloves, so therefore I need to wear red gloves to become as good as Muhammad Ali." No, Muhammad Ali used to wear white shorts, so therefore I need to wear white shorts in order to be good as Muhammad Ali. This is like the type of argument that you'll hear a lot of people using this. And it's just like to justify, basically junk training or training that you're like just doing too much and it becomes junk training. So there's a distinction. There's training that you should just not be doing at all, and there's training that you should like limit and not do as much. Hopefully that has made sense to you. If you're not a Neanderthal, that will easily make sense to you, right? But the point is, get rid of junk training as much as you can. Get that shit. Get that shit out of here. Right? It's gonna be a waste of time. Don't waste your time with that shit. Right? Your training time is very valuable, especially when it's in the gym. Don't waste your time with that shit. Like me personally, again, people can just disagree with me and whatnot. I don't really do jump rope a whole lot. I used to, but like I kind of realized low key at the gym. Like if I do it on my own at home, if I want to really just do it just for the sake of doing it, fair enough, right? That's not that bad, right? But I don't personally do jump rope like a shitload. I don't just because I feel like shadowboxing is just a lot better, hitting the bag. So while everyone else is jumping rope, I'm just shadowboxing. So yeah, or I'm hitting the bag. But I just think that's just way more useful, honestly. You can disagree with me on that, and like you can jump rope for like 10 minutes again, right? But don't like do it for like a long period of time. Honestly, 5 minutes is good enough. Right? Anything more than that is just ridiculous, right? Right? But the point is, yeah, like I said, but I'm gonna be diving deep into junk training. Junk training, man, I swear, this shit pisses me off because real junk training is shit like gi jitsu, constant hard sparring, ladder drills, rhythm steps, rhythm stepping, hell stepping. There's so many, but I would probably just, we would be here all day. But these are like the more main stuff that you really see that a lot of people just waste their time on, right? Right? Basically, stop doing this shit, right? Like, if you truly care, right? Like, if you truly care about getting better, you'll stop doing this shit, right? So, the most hated one that I hate, probably, gi jitsu. If you've seen my stories on Instagram, you already know how much I hate this shit, right? And it's justifiably. Like, I hate it for a reason, right? Only a subhuman would justify wearing a godless commie jacket and think it would make the grappling better. Like, these people should straight up just be locked up, minimum locked up, not just for spreading lies and mischief, but for being comedy sympathizers. Right? Like this is basically like unfortunately in MMA and especially MMA gyms, this is just a deranged foreign culture that has been like forced upon us. Like by a long history of these communists and fascists and their evil agenda. And like we shouldn't just let this shit slide. Right? Right? We shouldn't just stand by and be conned by these evil people with an ideology so perverse. I mean, if you actually don't know like about gi-jitsu, basically, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but the gi, right, the gi jacket, actually, funny enough, is a communist jacket. Right, a lot of people don't know this. Right, and I'll probably make a longer video going into more detail, but just to keep it short for this video, because right, to keep it short for this video, basically the gi is actually, if you know who Mao Zedong is, right, communist dictator, right, massacred 80 million people. Right? He used to wear a communist jacket. The gi is actually based on that communist jacket. Right? But again, I'll probably make a longer video that's gonna be more detailed on the dark history of jiu-jitsu. And I don't want to waste too much time on it for this video because again, uh, um, our focus is MMA, and I don't want to focus on the filth of jiu-jitsu. But the point is, don't do that shit. It's a waste of time. It will hinder your grappling skill. It will make you dependent upon basically calming clothing for grips. It's like imagine doing a martial art and it's like you're dependent upon hair pulling, right? Like not everyone you're gonna fight is like, it's probably gonna have hair, first of all, right? And again, that's just like such a volatile way of like fighting, right? And the worst thing about jiu-jitsu is that it will give you arthritis if you do it for long enough. And it will make your striking worse over time because now you have these like basically fucked up fingers, right? Like if you've ever seen someone that doesn't jiu jitsu long enough, you'll see like they have like these, yeah, like these deranged fingers, right? These deranged fucking fingers. Because again, that's punishment that they deserve for doing jiu jitsu. That's honestly what they deserve, right? Right? How do you do a martial art and you become worse at something, right? Like, right? Like you win a martial art and now you can't even like grip properly. So your grappling has basically become worse because now you can't even grip properly, and you can't even throw a punch because your fingers are so locked up in jam from all that basically communist pulling jacket bullshit that you basically become a worse martial artist, right? And it's just like not to mention MMA doesn't even have gi, like thank God, right? So you're not even being off to it, right? And the point is, don't do that shit, right? Anyone that says anything to fuck them for their lives, right? Don't believe that shit. Or anyone that says, jiu-jitsu makes you more time. I want you to kick him in his head, right? And just slap him, right? For spreading these lies, right? I want you to slap them for spreading these lies, right? Not literally, but like, you know, you get what I mean. Right? Basically, just don't do this shit. Another, another. We're gonna move on now. Enough with jiu-jitsu, but yeah, constant hard spar, right? Constant hard spar. Like, I don't know why so many gyms do this again, and a lot of people are going to be disagreeing with me, but I don't give a fuck, honestly. And again, I'm not saying you should never hard spar, but I am definitely saying you should limit that shit. You should you should only really do it if you have a fight coming up, and even then, it may not be necessary. If not, it's literally pointless, right? Like, there's so many people that like they just spar hard every week, and it's just like, and like they don't even have a fight coming up, and it's just like the dumbest fucking thing that you could do. Literally the dumbest thing you could do, right? Right? And in fact, studies will have actually shown that hard spark actually makes your reaction time slower. right? So every time I've heard people use the argument of reaction time and like really getting the feel of the fight or whatever bullshit they use as an argument to justify constant hard sparring. Well, science disagrees with you, right? You're actually becoming worse the more you do it. And there's a video out there, Roy Jones Jr. He actually said your sparring sessions, your hard sparring sessions, they count as fights because you're actually getting probably more busted up in these hard sparring sessions than you do in your actual fights. In fact, I believe he said that there was one boxer who was like really good, and he would never get touched in his fights. But whenever he would spar, he would get touched up a lot, right? Because again, think about it like this. I want you to think about it like this. This is a perspective no one has ever actually told you, right? Let's say in soccer and basketball, these other sports. Let's make the analogy. Do you think that every week they're spending like a soccer game or a basketball game is about 90 minutes or so, right? Give or take, right? Say that it's a very long time. So do you think every week on a Friday or a Thursday or whatever day you're sparring, hard sparring game on, you think they spend a 90-minute game preparing every week? Do they play a 90-minute game, a full-fledged basketball or soccer game to prepare? No, they don't. No, the fuck they don't. Because that's not gonna get you better. They do specific drills or basically like task-based games, right? They'll either do drills or they'll do task-based games, right? One of the two, and that's how they will become better at the sport. But it's like people with MMA cannot comprehend that, right? In combat sports in general, people cannot comprehend that, right? I do think you should be doing a lot of like light sparring. Right? I think that's great, right? But like I've said, man, like if you're doing constant hard sparring, like a lot of it, you're actually becoming a worse fighter over time, a way worse fighter over time. And I don't give a fuck if everyone does it, right? There was actually even an incident with John Jones, I remember, right? He was sparring, some guy just tried just like landing some shit on him, like really hard. And John Jones was like said, "Hey, what the hell's wrong with you? Hey, is everything good?" I said, "Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna spar with your trainers anymore." And this is exactly like this is supposedly like one of the best guys out there in MMA. And if he is saying that he doesn't want to spar hard, with basically Neanderthal constantly, then we have more of a right to not spar hard than him. Like, I will say this though, like if you do want it like to do it once or twice, just so like right before a fight, you should. I actually was talking to this with my coach. Actually, funny enough, and like we pretty much basically agreed upon this. I was actually originally saying that it should be done later in the camp, but now I've actually because he basically told me he made a good argument that if you're going to do it, you should do it earlier in the camp and then taper it off, right? Right. So and that way you have more time to recover. Makes sense, right? I'm like, yeah. So if you do it like just like only like once or twice, nothing more, and you should do it earlier in camp if you do want to do it, right? It may not even be necessary, right? Right. But the point is to limit that shit. Don't like constantly hard smart, right? Another common thing that a lot of people I've seen do ladder drills. Ladder drills. Again, from an MMA perspective, it's kind of a pointless drill. Right? Maybe, or maybe not. It's like height. It's height. It's okay. It's mid, like for reaction time or some other physical metric that you wanted to put up. But the bigger problem with these ladder drills, it builds up bad unconscious habits, particularly the rhythm step, which is what we're going to be talking about, right? Right. And what is the rhythm step? So I'll probably post a video connecting to it, but basically it's like hopefully like if you guys can see, right? It's like that weird like step with the lead leg that fighters do a lot, right? Right, and it's like it's basically a telegraph that I'm about to hit you. I gotta go back and then I'm gonna hit you. Right, I gotta go back. Right, that's basically what the rhythm step is. Stop doing that shit. But a lot of once you see that shit, everyone does that shit. Right? Hell, even like I was guilty of doing this because again I didn't know any better at the time. Right? Makes your attack so predictable. Right? It's an unconscious habit. Way too many fighters have. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Right? Like you'll see like all these gyms have it. Every gym pretty much has fighters doing algorithm stuff. That shit. Stop that shit. I think I even tweeted about it one time. Right? And I said, rhythm stuffing is the jiu-jitsu striking. And it is. Right? Like, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna attack, just go for it. You don't have to do this, like, you don't have to do this, like, homoerotic dance, like, going back and then going full. Like, if you want to attack, just go full, right? Or if you see someone rhythm step, you already know that guy's gonna attack you. So just disengage. That's usually the best way, to avoid any attack that's coming from a rhythm step. Right. Another another thing is something very similar, but kind of is the L step. L stepping is another unconscious habit people have. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Right? Everyone is doing that shit. So basically, think of it like a fighting stance. Right? Let's say I'm here, and then you shift back and you go this way. Right? I'll be posting a video about it, so hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. Right? So I'm be posting the video on my picture. Right? So you guys really understand what I'm saying. Right? Right? It was basically like this. Right? So in order to move, I'm doing this drastic, like basically just too many steps just to move. When I could just when I could just take one step that way, or that way, depending on what my stance is. Right? When I could just take one step that way. Right? So it's so dumb. Yeah. I don't even know why people do it. Like, what I mean? I don't really know. Like, the point is, don't L stop, don't rhythm stuff. Don't really do these ladder drills, I'm sorry. But like, it's not really worth it. It builds too many bad, unconscious habits, right? Your footwork, don't overcomplicate this shit. Like with footwork. Like I swear, there's always some guy that's talking about footwork. Don't overcomplicate that shit. Footwork, literally, you could win with basic footwork. You don't need to do like crazy shit, right? Anyone that's like, this is what I also hate, man. Like, too many people are overcomplicating shit. Like, this is actually one thing you will, like, if you have, if you're pretty mentally well individual, you'll see too many people overcomplicate shit all the time in MMA, right? In grappling and striking, you'll see simplicity is key. I think Bruce Lee even said this. Simplicity is key, right? Right? Stop with this overcomplicated bullshit that people do, right? In fact, funny enough, right? It's actually so funny because I remember someone was saying that I don't have good footwork, but it's like, but I'm still winning. Who gives a fuck, right? Like, right? This idea that forward needs to be this complicated maneuver. We're not doing parkour here, right? We're not doing parkour here, right? Like this is fighting, right? You move forward and you move backwards. You move to the right. You move to the left. You may occasionally move diagonally and diagonally. Okay, that's like pretty much it. Anything more than that, like, yeah, that's pretty much it. You don't need anything more than that. Like, yeah, that's pretty much it. There's your full. Here's your full. I have pretty much broken it down. Four directions, four main directions. So forward, backward, left, right, or right to left. And then occasionally you might go diagonal, 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 diagonal. Right? So that's like, that's like maybe like eight. I believe so. So it's like one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Yeah, eight. See, so my math is right. Yeah, don't overcomplicate shit. And another thing I'm gonna mention is like the whole idea of training with your hands up or hands down. Again, a lot of rudimentary coaches will tell you always keep your hands up. You don't need to always keep your hands up. Right? Again, I do believe that hands up is like a good strategy and all that, but it's not always the best strategy. Right? Sometimes you want to drop your hands, like fully sure. That is fine. Right? If you can make it work, it's fine. Right? But also, like having your hands up, you're a lot of the time look at what I'm doing. I can't see. Like I personally prefer to keep my hands over here above the chin because this is more so what you're trying to protect. Now, sometimes, right, like if you see someone really like throwing a shot that's up, you can just raise up your hand, right? Right. Right. If you know they're going to be hitting it, right, that's it, pretty much, right? You should be, but I think it's MMA Shredded actually, who I believe he used this term, and that is you want to have flowy hands, right? So like if you want to keep your hands up, or keep your hands down, right? And especially when they're shooting on you, having your hands lower can be better, right? But again, if they fake the takedown and then go for like some attack from above, it's also something you have to be cautious. The point is, there's no like one way. Like you shouldn't just be in one way of hands up, hands down. Right? But a lot of boomers have this idea of just hands, and they ironically enough get starched anyways. Right? There's actually a video I think I posted a while back. A guy had his hands up, someone throws a head kick, and he still gets knocked. So yeah, I mean, it's more so. It's not even just hands up. Like you should just try your best not to get hit. That's more so important. Like evading is better than evading is better than blocking. This is also another philosophy. So evading is better than blocking. Right? Majority of the times, right? Almost all the time. The only time is like maybe there's like the rare chance you can counter someone, but if you can evade and counter right on the spot, that's even better. Someone who's like really good at this, prime Conor McGregor. Right? Like if you watch how he just evade the right hand and strike down his left, that's kind of like what I'm talking about. Right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Right? Being able to evade, and it's basically called counterattacking, or as Dax Dempsey used to say, aggressive defense. Right? That is the best way to do it. Right? And again, speaking of Jack Dempsey, I read this in that book that he has, Aggressive Defense. Speaking of it, investments, as I said earlier, even books can actually be pretty good, especially of these old school boxers. I'm going to be buying another book on catch wrestling. It'd be interesting how that book is going to be out. If you guys, actually, I wouldn't even mind doing like some like reviews of books. Like if you guys are interested, just comment that below. Right? And there's so many things that was a training maxing is just try and maximize your training, right? Every little advantage you can get that the other person that your opponent won't have is basically a win, right? Basically is a win. And if you can remove the fluff and the bullshit that doesn't really work well and doesn't work at all, like the stuff that I mentioned earlier, you'll be light years ahead of everyone else. Light years. Right? And another thing, this is like I don't even know why I have to say this, but it's probably gonna be maybe my yeah, maybe my semi last point. But train year round, not just in camps. So many fighters I see, bro, I swear, these dudes, bro, I swear, They just train in camp. Stop training in just in camp. Train year round, constantly. Right. The only thing is camp. Like, I don't even like that term, honestly, because it's like it makes you think that you're going on a trip, getting marshmallows and shit, and sitting next to a fire. Right. But that's beside the point. Right. Train year round. Don't train like only in camp. Now again, is it okay to take a break once in a while? Sure. Right. But like if you have a fight coming up, let's say, right, and the camp, right? Your camp should only really be a hyper focused skill set, especially if you know who you're fighting and you know what primarily his like go to stuff is. For example, right, if you know this guy is really just a Muay Thai fighter, he doesn't really have the best grappling, then maybe you really hone in on your takedowns and your Muay Thai defense, right? That would be like, yes, you hyper focusing on a skill set so that like you haven't forgotten anything else. You're just hyper focusing on skills that are more than likely to win you the fight. Right. That's basically what it is. And you're also still prepared that even if you can't take him down, like you'll still be able to beat him. Right. That's basically a hyper focusing on a skill set. Right. So train year round and not just in camps, I swear. The amount of fighters that do this, and unfortunately some of them I didn't see them at the gym. Right. But it's like they train, right? They train just when they have a fight come. And that's so dangerous. That's so like, because it's like you're only training when you have a fight coming. How do you expect to improve, bro? How do you expect to improve if, like, you're only going to train for what, like a month or two every time you fight? And like, it's also possible, like, if fight gets canceled, so what? You just stop training. Right? You just stop training. Come on now. Right? Again, I do recommend also, as I was talking about earlier, because even I invest in stuff, right? Instructionals, all this other stuff, right? Make sure you include a proper workout routine, proper diet, proper lifestyle. Again, I go into immense detail in my other videos and my program, specifically biohacking for MMA. If you want more detailed stuff on that, highly recommend you join that, right? Right, highly recommend you join that, right? And right, if you want, like again, even with like, like I was talking about earlier, healing brain damage, I actually go into detail how to do that in my program, right? How to heal from constant heart spine, right? Why you should stop constantly heart spine, right? I go into detail in the program, right? Now you can pre-order it right now, right? And you'll get it, right? It's gonna be thousands upon thousands of like biohacks, right? But man, I really enjoy making these videos, right? So if you guys could just, subscribe to the channel, hit that post notification, and until next time, man, I shall leave you in the echoes of excellence. But until then, until greatness returns.